Infosys founder Narayana Murthy said on a podcast, and he said that the youth of India should work for 70 hours a week, 70 hours a week to truly participate in nation building. 70 hours is actually even higher than what Murthy had said in a statement in 2020 during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, where he asked employees to work 60 hours a week for the next 2-3 years. Well, those 2-3 years have come to an end, but Mr. Murthy's expectation has gone up by 10 hours a week. Rakesh, you put in much more than 70 hours a week. I think I can say that on record.
Nice of you,
I try to put in maybe about 60 hours, but youngsters working with us on our team, median age of India's population is 28, slam bang in the middle of what is referred to as Gen Z or the Zoomers.
Absolutely.
So Zoomers are not going to put in 70 hours a week. I mean, I think Infosys employees today would be saying, thank God Mr. Murthy is not CEO of Infosys anymore.
That's a nice one too. See, Mr. Murthy is adding a decade to himself, or every year he grows. I think he's going to increase the number of working hours.
It's directly linked to his age. He's 77, so 70 hours.
On a serious note, I think he's making a very important point. I think, there's a socio-economic perspective to it. There's a business, what we call the capitalist perspective. One way of looking at it is, as someone has pointed on Twitter, I'm borrowing it from there, that, these guys, he's fundamentally a capitalist.
Correct.
And a capitalist is looking at greater return on his investment. He wants to fatten his P&L, and he's getting his workforce to do more and more work.
Right.
But, if you take it back to say what, Lal Bahadur Shastri, did with the Indian, polity, the Indian electorate, he said, you sacrifice one meal a day, and that is the requirement of the hour.
Absolutely.
So to fuel the India growth story, to which Mr. Murthy is wedded to, I guess, to which all of us are wedded to, our network is wedded to, we believe that there is need to actually cross the barrier, set a new bar for ourselves. Especially when we do know that, with due respect to these youngsters who are brighter than me, more technologically advanced, more sincere, but not as hardworking. With no respect to you, there's a certain element of laxity, if I can use that phrase correctly or incorrectly. There is we are.
It's weekend. You don't need to be politically correct.
So all those who are products of shortages economy are driven by that sense of discomfiture or insecurity.
Right.
Insecurity leads to security in this case.
Mr.
Murthy himself, now look at this, he is 77, you're saying, and he is doing this podcast. At this age, he's learning a new medium, and he's not doing it for free. He's doing it to push his venture capital company, which is not necessarily doing that well. It's called Cataraman.
Right.
So, and who has he brought in as the first guest?
Mohandas Pai.
So thereby hangs the tale.
In fact, it's held on the platform owned by Mohandas Pai's son, Siddharth Pai, 314 Ventures. So I think it's a great sort of family coming together and
so they're pushing their capitalist agenda also.
Of course. So,
but there's a great social message.
So about 18, 19 years ago, when I happened to interview Mr. Murthy for the first time, and we done a series on another channel that I worked for at that time, I think my opening statement of the script was that Mr. Murthy is a capitalist at heart, a capitalist in mind, but a socialist at heart.
Right.
So I remember that one line, but I want to come back to this podcast specifically. And
I'll give an anecdote which is very, very relevant here. I got him as a guest for the budget in 1998 when I used to work at Z. He had come to our studios in the Film City. And now how television is, that, we also got a little late on the shoot. So we got a little delayed, and we were not very good with technology. Then television was shaping up, and this was just huge set and everything else. And Mr. Murthy, he was absolutely 5 minutes ahead of his time. So his work integrity is impeccable. And, he almost walked off, and I had to request, and he was kind enough to stay back. So he's leading by example.
Absolutely. So I just want to go back to the podcast. And I think the example that Mr. Murthy sort of equated India and India's youth with was that of post-World War II Germany and Japan, which both had to rebuild themselves pretty much from scratch. Today's youth is going to go back and question Mr. Murthy, if not directly, at least on social media, that we don't need any rebuilding. We are the 5th largest economy of the world, slated to be the 3rd largest, by turn of the decade, and of course the 2nd largest economy in all of Asia. We don't need to work that hard. We are going to get there anyway. Our numbers are shoring up, and I think a conflict that today's youth would have, which partly I could also echo. I'm a father of a 8-year-old child. That at some point you do require work-life balance. Work-life balance versus greed work, selfish greed or greed for national growth. both need to find some sort of a balance at some point. 70 hours a week may be great for a short stretch of time. You don't want your population burning out. The median age, like I said, 28. You don't want them burning out at 40. You want them to continue working and continue working healthily, even at a time when our demographic dividend may 20 years, 30 years from now turn into a demographic liability.
See, Mr. Murthy, at the heart of it is, making he's a thought leader. So he's leaving a thought for all of us to debate. I don't think he believes that it's the best solution, but it's a solution possibly which needs to be examined in its integrity. I think that there is merit in one particular generation, today's 20 plus onwards, to work harder, because all this third largest economy, fifth largest economy, it's a number at the end of it. Our per capita income, I'm very happy about the way we are growing. We are all very happy.
We are growing on the back of others not growing as fast. It's not that we are going to be competing with China or US even 20 years from now.
And the larger goal that Dr. Manmohan Singh outlined in his 1991 budget, led by the then Prime Minister who had the political vision to execute it, Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, was that we want an equitable growth. That is not yet happening. I mean, we have some fresh additions in the Hurun list, which are like new age stories, but it is by and large dominated by certain big set of industrialists. So wealth, this bottoms up growth, if it has to happen, someone has to do the heavy lifting.
Someone has to do the heavy lifting. Coming the message not just from N.R. Narayana Murthy, but even my colleague Rakesh Kar here, and really telling all you youngsters out there, all unpopular, I guess, but all you youngsters watching this show, message coming from two stalwarts, one from the IT sector, one of course from the media sector and business and economy, Mr. Rakesh Kar.
Karthik is being too kind.
Pull up your socks, roll up your sleeves, get into that work culture and put in, if not 70 hours, maybe 60 hours.
For some time at least.
For some time at least. See your company through, see your country through, see your own aspirations through, and see us again next weekend when we join you here on the weekend edition of Business Plus. Thank you very much for watching.